Number 1. 1969 Buick Skylark Custom Coupe, offered at $23,000 and currently located in Middletown, Connecticut. In my opinion, this 1969 Buick Skylark is not the typical classic cruiser most people expect when they hear the Skylark name. Based on the seller's description, this appears to be a serious pro-street build designed for enthusiasts who appreciate big horsepower and aggressive performance. The first thing that immediately gets my attention is the engine. According to the seller, the car is powered by a big block Chevrolet producing approximately 585 horsepower. That's a substantial amount of power in a mid-size muscle car, and it's clear this build was intended to deliver far more excitement than a factory Skylark ever could. Backing that engine is a turbo 400 transmission equipped with a reverse manual valve body. In my opinion, that's another sign that this car was built with performance as the priority. Reverse manual valve body transmissions are typically found in drag-oriented vehicles and require a more experienced driver than a standard automatic. This is likely why the seller specifically mentions that the car is not for amateurs. The drivetrain upgrades continue with a 12-bolt rear end, a proven setup capable of handling serious horsepower. Combined with the powerful engine package, this Skylark sounds like a car built to launch hard and make a strong impression wherever it goes. Visually, the black exterior paired with a black interior creates a timeless muscle car look. Even without seeing the vehicle in person, it's easy to imagine the aggressive stance and attitude that often accompany pro-street builds of this caliber. Another detail that stands out is the seller's mention that the car is a trophy winner. While awards alone don't guarantee quality, they do suggest the vehicle has attracted positive attention at shows and events. For many enthusiasts, that adds another layer of appeal. I also find it interesting that the seller reports 80,000 miles on the body and chassis but not on the drivetrain. That tells me the mechanical components have likely been significantly upgraded or rebuilt as part of the car's transformation into a high-performance machine. What I like most about this Skylark is that it appears to know exactly what it wants to be. It isn't trying to be a factory original restoration or a mild weekend cruiser. Instead, it embraces its identity as a powerful pro-street muscle car with serious performance credentials. Overall, my opinion is that this 1969 Buick Skylark Custom would appeal most to buyers who want something bold, loud, and undeniably fast. Between the 585 horsepower big block, performance-oriented transmission, and trophy-winning history, it looks like a classic muscle car built to deliver excitement every time the key is turned. Number 2. 1974 Chevrolet Camaro Z/28 Coupe, offered at $27,995 and currently located in Carroll, Ohio. In my opinion, this 1974 Chevrolet Camaro Z/28 appears to be a very appealing driver's muscle car that strikes a nice balance between performance, presentation, and affordability. While the early second-generation Camaros have become increasingly popular in recent years, the 1974 model stands out as the first year of the redesigned impact bumper era, giving it a distinctive look that separates it from both the earlier 1970 to 1973 cars and the later second-generation models. One of the biggest highlights is the fact that this is a Z/28. Even though the seller notes that it is a non-matching numbers example, the Z/28 name still carries significant weight among Camaro enthusiasts. For many buyers, drivability and overall condition are more important than absolute originality, especially when the car has been upgraded with components that enhance performance and reliability. Under the hood is a newer 355 cubic inch small block V8 paired with a newer muslce 4-speed manual transmission. That combination should provide a classic muscle car driving experience with strong acceleration and plenty of driver involvement. The addition of a mild camshaft likely gives the engine a more aggressive sound and personality without sacrificing street manners. Combined with the 3.73 rear-end gearing, this Camaro should feel lively and responsive whether cruising around town or accelerating through the gears on an open road. Another major positive is the seller's claim that the car is rust-free. Rust is one of the most important factors affecting the value and long-term ownership experience of any classic Camaro, so a solid body can be worth just as much as many mechanical upgrades. The newer tires are also a welcome addition, suggesting the car is ready to be driven and enjoyed immediately. The red exterior paired with a black interior is one of the most iconic color combinations for a muscle car. It gives the Camaro an aggressive appearance that perfectly complements its performance-oriented character. According to the seller, the vehicle is a head-turner, and based on the description, that seems like a fair assessment. A clean red Z/28 with a healthy small block and 4-speed transmission is likely to attract attention at cruise nights, local shows, and weekend gatherings. What I find particularly interesting is the seller's statement that the car is a driver but could easily win some shows. That suggests a vehicle that has been maintained to a high standard without becoming so pristine that the owner is afraid to enjoy it on the road. Many enthusiasts prefer this type of classic because it offers the best of both worlds: attractive presentation and real-world usability. At an asking price of $27,995, I think this Camaro is positioned in a competitive part of the market. Genuine Z/28 models continue to attract strong interest, and the combination of a rust-free body, upgraded drivetrain, manual transmission, and desirable color combination helps support the value. While a numbers-matching example would likely command a higher price, this car may actually appeal more to buyers who want to drive and enjoy their classic rather than treat it strictly as an investment piece. Overall, I believe this 1974 Camaro Z/28 represents a solid opportunity for someone looking to own a classic American muscle car with proven performance upgrades and strong visual appeal. The newer 355 engine, muslce 4-speed, 3.73 gears, and rust-free condition create a package that sounds both fun and practical. If the car performs as well as the seller describes, the asking price appears reasonable for a Z/28 that is ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. Number 3. 1971 Pontiac Lemon Sport, offered at $26,900 and currently located in Mt. Sterling, Kentucky. In my opinion, this 1971 Pontiac Lemon Sport is one of those classic muscle-era cars that can easily fly under the radar, yet offers tremendous value for enthusiasts who appreciate Pontiac performance. While many buyers immediately focus on the GTO, the Lemon Sport often delivers a very similar driving experience at a significantly lower price point, and this particular example appears to have several features that make it especially attractive. The first thing that stands out is the freshly built 455 cubic inch V8. Pontiac's 455 is one of the most respected engines of the muscle car era, known for producing massive torque and effortless acceleration. The seller states that the engine has been bored .060 over, balanced, and blueprint. In my opinion, those details suggest this was more than a simple rebuild. A balanced and blueprint engine typically indicates careful machine work and attention to detail, resulting in a stronger and smoother running power plant. Backing the engine is a fresh turbo 400 automatic transmission, another major highlight. The TH400 has long been considered one of General Motors' strongest automatic transmissions and is a favorite among muscle car enthusiasts. Paired with a healthy Pontiac 455, it creates a drivetrain combination capable of delivering both reliability and serious performance. Another feature I appreciate is the extensive mechanical work already completed. The seller mentions new suspension components, brakes, and exhaust. These are the kinds of upgrades that directly improve the driving experience. A classic car may look beautiful, but if it doesn't drive properly, ownership can quickly become frustrating. In this case, the major mechanical systems appear to have received significant attention. The reported 44,000 actual miles are also intriguing. While mileage claims on older vehicles should always be supported by documentation, the seller's mention of extensive records adds credibility. Documentation is often one of the most valuable assets a classic car can have because it helps tell the story of the vehicle and provides confidence regarding its history. One aspect that particularly appeals to me is the originality of the interior. According to the listing, the interior remains complete and is in excellent condition, while the original vinyl top is described as being like new. Preserved interiors are becoming increasingly rare because exposure to sunlight, age, and use often takes a toll on upholstery and trim. Retaining an original interior in such condition is a noteworthy advantage. The linkest green exterior combined with the dark green interior and vinyl top creates a very period-correct appearance. In my opinion, this color combination perfectly captures the spirit of the early 1970s. It may not appeal to everyone, but for collectors who appreciate factory-correct styling, it gives the car a distinctive personality that sets it apart from more common color choices. I also find it encouraging that the car is described as rust-free and free of dents. Structural condition is often one of the most important factors when evaluating a classic vehicle. Mechanical components can be rebuilt relatively easily, but repairing rust and body damage can become expensive and time-consuming. The fact that this was originally a factory air conditioning car is another positive. Even if the system requires additional work or components, factory AC cars are generally more desirable than vehicles that never had air conditioning at all. Many collectors appreciate having the option to restore the system and retain the car's original comfort features. Interestingly, the seller notes that the paint remains presentable but could benefit from a repaint. In my opinion, this can actually be a positive for certain buyers. The vehicle appears good enough to drive, enjoy, and display immediately, while still leaving room for future improvements if the next owner chooses to pursue a higher-level restoration. At an asking price of $26,900, this Lemon Sport appears to offer substantial value. Comparable GTOs with similar mechanical specifications would likely command a significantly higher price, making the Lemons an attractive alternative for enthusiasts who prioritize driving enjoyment over badge prestige. Overall, my opinion is that this 1971 Pontiac Lemon Sport represents a compelling blend of performance, originality, and affordability. The freshly built 455 V8 Turbo 400 transmission, extensive mechanical upgrades, rust-free body, original interior, factory air conditioning, and documented history create a package that appears both collectible and highly enjoyable to drive. For someone seeking classic Pontiac muscle without paying GTO prices, this Lemon Sport looks like an excellent opportunity. Number 4, 1968 Pontiac GTO Coupe 2D, offered at $39,900 and currently located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. From my perspective, this is the type of classic muscle car that immediately grabs attention because of what the GTO name represents in American automotive history. Many enthusiasts consider the GTO one of the pioneers of the muscle car movement, and the 1968 model introduced a completely redesigned body style that remains highly desirable today. The first detail that caught my eye is the 242 VIN designation. In Pontiac circles, that's important because it identifies the car as a genuine GTO rather than a Lemons or Tempest that was later converted to resemble one. Personally, I think authentic factory GTOs always carry a special appeal because they represent the real thing rather than a tribute or clone. Under the hood sits Pontiac's famous 400 cubic inch V8 paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission. In my opinion, the 400 is one of the best engines Pontiac ever produced. It offers plenty of torque, a distinctive exhaust note, and the kind of effortless power that made the GTO such a formidable performer during the muscle car era. I also like the fact that this car is equipped with power steering, power brakes, and factory air conditioning. Those features make a significant difference when actually driving a classic car. While many buyers focus exclusively on horsepower numbers, comfort and usability can be just as important for long cruises and weekend events. The red exterior combined with the black interior is another major plus in my book. It's one of those timeless combinations that never seems to go out of style. The bold red paint highlights the aggressive lines of the 1968 body, while the black interior gives the cabin a sporty and purposeful appearance. Inside, the factory bucket seats, center console, wood grain trim, and padded dashboard help preserve the car's original muscle car character. I especially like the mention of the factory-style gauges and the his and hers shifter, which was a distinctive feature that Pontiac enthusiasts immediately recognize. Another detail worth noting is the Endura front bumper. The 1968 GTO was the first year to feature this innovative body-colored bumper design, and it became one of the model's most recognizable styling elements. According to the seller, the bumper remains in good condition, which is always encouraging since these components can be expensive to restore properly. The seller states that the paint still has a nice shine despite being older. Personally, I often prefer older paint that has been cared for rather than a fresh repaint of unknown quality. An older finish can sometimes tell a more honest story about a car's condition and history. One thing that stands out is the statement that the vehicle has a clean title and no rust. As any classic car enthusiast knows, rust can be one of the biggest concerns when evaluating a vintage vehicle. If the body and structure are truly solid, that adds significant value in my opinion. The absence of PHS documentation may be something that some collectors will want to investigate further. However, the genuine 242 VIN still provides an important level of authenticity that many buyers look for when shopping for a GTO. At an asking price of $39,900, I think this car occupies an interesting position in the market. Genuine GTOs continue to attract strong interest, and examples that combine V8 power, desirable options, and attractive styling tend to remain popular among enthusiasts. What I personally like most about this Pontiac is that it appears to strike a balance between collectability and usability. It doesn't sound like a fragile museum piece that can't leave the garage, but rather a classic muscle car that can be driven, enjoyed, and appreciated on the road. Overall, my opinion is that this 1968 Pontiac GTO presents a compelling package. It offers authentic GTO heritage, a desirable 400 V8, classic styling, useful factory options, and the kind of presence that made the GTO a legend in the first place. For anyone looking to own a genuine piece of muscle car history without stepping into six-figure territory, this GTO appears to be a strong candidate worthy of a closer look. Number 5. 1971 Chevrolet Corvette convertible, offered at $25,000 and currently located in Geneva, New York. In my opinion, this is one of the most attention-grabbing listings I've seen recently because the asking price seems surprisingly low for what is being described. Whenever I see a numbers-matching C3 Corvette convertible with relatively low mileage and a reported repaint selling for $25,000, my curiosity immediately goes up. The biggest selling point here is that this is a 1971 Corvette convertible. Among C3 Corvettes, the 1971 model year occupies a desirable position because it was produced before many of the performance reductions and emissions-related changes that affected later 1970s cars. For many enthusiasts, the early 1970s represent a sweet spot between classic muscle-era styling and improved drivability. The seller states that the car has approximately 54,000 miles and was purchased from the original owner. If accurate, that ownership history adds a lot of appeal. In my opinion, two-owner cars often carry a certain level of confidence because their histories tend to be easier to trace than vehicles that have changed hands repeatedly over several decades. What really stands out is the claim that everything is numbers matching. In the Corvette world, those two words can significantly affect value. Matching engine, transmission, and major drivetrain components are often among the first things buyers verify because originality remains one of the strongest drivers of collector interest. The 350 cubic inch V8 paired with an automatic transmission may not be the most aggressive configuration available in 1971, but it makes for a very enjoyable cruiser. Not every Corvette owner is looking for maximum horsepower. Many simply want the unmistakable styling, open-air driving experience, and classic small-block Chevrolet sound that these cars provide. The recent paint work is another important factor. According to the seller, the car was stripped, primed, and repainted in its hatch green color. In my opinion, a proper strip and repaint job is far more reassuring than a quick cosmetic respray. Quality paint work is expensive, and the fact that the seller specifically mentions the process suggests a substantial investment may have been made. The color combination is also interesting. Green exterior paint paired with a brown interior is a very period-correct 1970s combination. While some buyers prefer brighter or more conventional color schemes, I actually think combinations like this help preserve the character of the era and make the car stand out from the more common red, black, and silver Corvettes seen at many shows. Of course, the asking price is what makes this listing especially noteworthy. A numbers-matching 1971 Corvette convertible with a reportedly fresh repaint, low mileage, and documented ownership history would often attract considerable attention at this price point. In my opinion, The price seems low enough that I would want to understand exactly why the seller is willing to part with it for that amount. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. Sometimes sellers are motivated by garage space, other projects, changing interests, or a desire for a quick sale. However, whenever a classic Corvette appears to be priced below what many enthusiasts might expect, a thorough inspection becomes even more important. If I were evaluating this Corvette in person, I would focus heavily on documentation supporting the numbers matching claim, inspect the quality of the repaint, verify the condition of the frame, birdcage structure, and suspension components, and confirm that the mileage is consistent with the overall condition of the vehicle. Those details would tell the real story. Another attractive aspect is that the seller actively drives the car. In my opinion, classic cars that are regularly driven often age better mechanically than vehicles that spend years sitting and used. Ongoing use helps keep seals lubricated, fluids circulating, and systems functioning as intended. Overall, my impression is that this 1971 Chevrolet Corvette convertible could represent a very interesting opportunity. The combination of a desirable model year, numbers matching drivetrain, reported 54,000 miles, fresh hatch green paint, two-owner history, and convertible body style creates a package that would attract a wide range of Corvette enthusiasts. If the seller's description proves accurate and the car checks out during inspection, the $25,000 asking price could make this one of the more compelling classic Corvette values currently on the market. Number 6. 1966 Ford Mustang Coupe, offered at $22,500 and currently located in Hudson, Florida. In my opinion, this 1966 Ford Mustang represents the kind of survivor car that becomes harder to find with each passing year. While many first-generation Mustangs have been restored, modified, or rebuilt multiple times, this example appears to have retained much of its original character after spending its entire life with the same family. What immediately stands out to me is the one-family ownership history. For a vehicle that is now 60 years old, that's an impressive story. Cars that remain with the same family for decades often receive a level of care and preservation that is difficult to duplicate through multiple ownership changes. Under the hood is Ford's legendary 289 V8, one of the engines most closely associated with the Mustang's early success. In my opinion, the 289 offers an excellent balance of performance, reliability, and classic V8 sound. Combined with the 4-speed transmission, this Mustang should provide a much more engaging driving experience than many automatic-equipped classics from the era. Another feature I appreciate is the factory air conditioning. Not only is it a desirable option on a classic Mustang, but the seller notes that it is still blowing cold. For enthusiasts living in warmer climates, that can make a huge difference in how often the car is actually driven and enjoyed. The styled wheels, bucket seats, dual exhaust, and AM/FM cassette system further enhance the car's appeal. These details help create a classic Mustang experience while maintaining the authentic personality that collectors often look for in survivor vehicles. The seller describes the car as rust-free, including the underside, which is one of the most encouraging details in the entire listing. Rust repair can be one of the most expensive and time-consuming aspects of restoring a vintage Mustang, so finding a solid example is always a major advantage. I also like the seller's honesty regarding the paint. Rather than claiming the car is perfect, they acknowledge that it could benefit from a refresh while still being presentable enough to enjoy as it sits. In my opinion, that kind of transparency adds credibility to the listing. What appeals to me most is that this Mustang seems to offer the best of both worlds. It has the originality and history that many collectors appreciate, while still being a car that can be driven and enjoyed regularly without the worries that sometimes come with a freshly restored showpiece. Overall, my opinion is that this 1966 Ford Mustang Coupe is an attractive opportunity for anyone looking to own a genuine survivor. With one family ownership, a desirable 289 V8, 4-speed transmission, working air conditioning, and a reportedly rust-free body, it appears to be a classic Mustang that has earned its place as a piece of American automotive history. Number 7. 1973 Chevrolet Corvette Coupe, offered at $28,875 and currently located in Bel Air Beach, Florida. In my opinion, this 1973 Chevrolet Corvette appears to be an attractive opportunity for buyers looking to own a classic C3 Corvette without entering the much higher price range of big block or high-performance collector examples. The 1973 model year occupies a unique place in Corvette history, combining many of the styling cues that enthusiasts love from the early C3 generation while incorporating updates that improved practicality and drivability. One of the most appealing aspects of this particular Corvette is its reported mileage of just 28,845 miles. While any mileage claim should be supported by documentation whenever possible, a low-mileage example can be especially desirable in the Corvette market. Lower mileage often suggests less wear on the drivetrain, interior, suspension, and other key components, making the vehicle more attractive to both collectors and enthusiasts. Power comes from Chevrolet's L48 350 cubic inch V8 paired with an automatic transmission. Although the L48 was not the highest performance engine available during the era, it remains a reliable and enjoyable power plant that delivers the classic Corvette experience. For many buyers, the automatic transmission makes the car easier to drive and more enjoyable during relaxed weekend cruising, long-distance road trips, or local car shows. The exterior color is listed as aluminum silver with a black interior, a combination that has always worked exceptionally well on the Corvette's sleek body lines. The silver paint highlights the distinctive curves and aggressive styling of the C3 generation, while the black interior provides a timeless and sporty appearance. Even today, the design of the early 1970s Corvette remains one of the most recognizable shapes in American automotive history. Another factor that makes this car appealing is its position within Corvette history. The 1973 model was the final year to feature a chrome rear bumper while also incorporating the newer front bumper design. Because of this, many Corvette enthusiasts view 1973 as a transitional year that offers the best elements of both early and later C3 models. That historical significance can add to the car's long-term appeal. The seller's experience in the Corvette market is also worth noting. A dealership that has reportedly sold more than 12,000 Corvettes over several decades is likely familiar with the expectations of Corvette buyers and the importance of maintaining these cars properly. While buyers should always conduct their own inspections, dealing with a Corvette-focused seller can provide additional confidence. At an asking price of $28,875, I believe this Corvette is positioned competitively within today's classic car market. Values for solid, low-mileage C3 Corvettes have remained relatively stable, and examples with attractive color combinations and documented histories often attract strong interest. While it may not be the rarest Corvette available, it offers many of the characteristics enthusiasts seek, including classic styling, V8 power, and a reportedly low-mileage presentation. Overall, I think this 1973 Chevrolet Corvette represents a well-rounded classic sports car that balances collectability, drivability, and affordability. The combination of low reported mileage, desirable silver over black color scheme, L48 V8 power, and the unique place the 1973 model holds in Corvette history makes this a compelling option for anyone looking to experience one of America's most iconic sports cars. If the condition matches the description, the asking price appears fair and could make this Corvette a rewarding addition to a collection or a weekend garage. Number 8. 1967 Pontiac Firebird Convertible, offered at $29,500 and currently located in Contac, New York. In my opinion, this 1967 Pontiac Firebird Convertible represents a very appealing combination of first-year collectability, open-top cruising enjoyment, and practical upgrades that make it easier to enjoy in today's driving environment. For enthusiasts of classic Pontiacs, owning a first-year Firebird has always carried a certain level of prestige, and this example appears to have many qualities that make it stand out. The biggest attraction is undoubtedly the fact that this is a 1967 model. As the inaugural year of the first-generation Firebird, it occupies an important place in Pontiac history. First-year cars often attract collectors because they mark the beginning of a model's legacy, and the 1967 Firebird is no exception. In my opinion, the styling remains one of the cleanest and most elegant designs of the muscle car era. Being a convertible adds another level of desirability. Classic convertibles tend to attract strong interest because they offer an experience that hardtops simply cannot match. There's something special about driving a vintage Pontiac with the top down, especially during weekend cruises, local shows, and summer events. The car originally came equipped with a 326 V8, but a previous owner upgraded it to a 350 cubic inch engine. While some collectors place a premium on complete originality, I actually see this as a sensible improvement for someone who wants to drive and enjoy the car. The Pontiac 350 provides additional performance while maintaining the traditional Pontiac V8 character that enthusiasts appreciate. Another positive sign is the amount of maintenance and updating that has already been completed. The seller mentions a refreshed convertible top system with new pistons and a rebuilt pump. Convertible mechanisms can be expensive to repair, so having a properly functioning top is a significant advantage. The fact that it works as intended means the next owner can simply enjoy the car rather than immediately budgeting for repairs. The interior has also received attention with reupholstered seating and new carpeting. In my opinion, a clean interior greatly enhances the ownership experience because it is the part of the car you interact with every time you drive it. Fresh upholstery and carpet can make a classic feel far newer than its age suggests. The suspension improvements are another notable benefit. New shocks, springs, and body mounts should contribute to a tighter, more comfortable ride. Early F-body cars can sometimes feel loose or worn after decades of use, so replacing these components often results in a noticeable improvement in handling and driving quality. I also appreciate that the seller addressed structural concerns by replacing the driver's side front and rear floor pans. Rust repair is often necessary on Northeastern classics, and the fact that the work has already been completed may save the next owner considerable time and expense. Several modern upgrades add convenience without dramatically changing the character of the vehicle. LED headlights improve nighttime visibility, while the retro sound radio provides modern audio functionality while preserving a vintage appearance. These are the types of upgrades that many enthusiasts find useful because they enhance usability without detracting from the car's classic appeal. The new ignition system is another practical improvement. Reliable starting and consistent performance are important in any classic car, and updated ignition components often reduce maintenance concerns compared to older systems. At $29,500, the Firebird sits in an interesting part of the market. First-generation convertibles continue to attract strong interest, particularly first-year examples. While this car is not presented as a fully original survivor, it appears to be an honest driver that has received thoughtful upgrades and maintenance over the years. Overall, my opinion is that this 1967 Pontiac Firebird convertible offers a great balance of collectability and enjoyment. The first-year status, convertible body style, upgraded Pontiac 350 V8, refreshed interior, functional power top, suspension improvements, and modern reliability upgrades make it an attractive package. For someone looking for a classic muscle-era convertible that can be driven and enjoyed regularly rather than hidden away in a garage, this Firebird appears to be a very appealing opportunity. Number 9. 1968 Pontiac Firebird Coupe 2D, offered at $42,900 and currently located in Savannah, Georgia. From my perspective, this is a classic Pontiac that successfully blends vintage muscle car styling with modern drivability upgrades. While many first-generation Firebirds remain close to factory specification, this example appears to have been thoughtfully enhanced to create a more capable and enjoyable driving experience without losing its classic character. The first thing that immediately stands out is the engine. What was originally a performance-oriented Firebird has been transformed with a rebuilt Pontiac 455 V8 that has been bored .030 over to approximately 462 cubic inches. Personally, I think that's one of the most exciting aspects of this car. Pontiac's big cube V8 engines are famous for producing massive torque, and a 462 cubic inch setup should deliver effortless acceleration throughout the rev range. Another feature I appreciate is that the seller didn't focus solely on horsepower. The upgrades extend throughout the entire vehicle. In my opinion, one of the biggest mistakes people make when building classic muscle cars is adding power without improving the suspension and braking systems. This Firebird appears to avoid that problem entirely. The Pro Touring-inspired suspension package is particularly interesting. Tubular control arms, coilovers, upgraded sway bars, and a quick-ratio steering box suggest that this car was built to handle modern roads more confidently than it did when it left the factory in 1968. Personally, I think these upgrades can dramatically improve the overall driving experience while maintaining the vehicle's classic appearance. The four-wheel disc brake conversion is another major selling point in my opinion. The addition of large 13-inch front rotors should provide braking performance far beyond what was available in the late 1960s. For anyone planning to drive a classic regularly, upgraded brakes are often among the most valuable improvements that can be made. I also like the fact that the car retains comfort-oriented features such as power steering, power brakes, automatic transmission, and air conditioning. The vintage air system is especially appealing because it offers modern cooling performance while maintaining a clean and integrated appearance inside the cabin. The yellow exterior paired with a black interior is a combination that perfectly suits the Firebird's aggressive styling. To me, the bright paint emphasizes the long hood, muscular fenders, and sporty proportions that help distinguish the Firebird from many of its competitors. One of the most encouraging details in the listing is the description of the body and underside. The seller states that the car has a solid body with no known rust and no evidence of previous floor or rocker repairs. In the world of classic cars, structural condition is often just as important as engine performance, and that statement immediately adds confidence to the overall package. I also appreciate the mention that all gauges are functioning properly. While it may seem like a small detail, fully operational instrumentation often indicates a car that has received consistent attention and maintenance. The 2.73 positraction rear axle is another interesting choice. Rather than focusing purely on drag racing performance, it suggests the build was designed with comfortable highway cruising in mind. Combined with the torque-rich 462 V8, the car should have no trouble delivering strong performance while remaining relaxed at speed. At $42,900, I think this Firebird occupies a very appealing position in the classic muscle car market. Buyers aren't simply getting a restored 1968 Firebird, they're getting a car with substantial drivetrain, suspension, steering, braking, and comfort upgrades that would be expensive to replicate today. What I personally like most about this vehicle is its balance. It appears capable of attracting attention at a car show, cruising comfortably on the highway, and delivering impressive performance whenever the driver decides to press the throttle. Overall, my opinion is that this 1968 Pontiac Firebird represents a well-executed restomat that respects the spirit of the original car while incorporating meaningful modern improvements. Between the powerful 462 cubic inch Pontiac V8, upgraded suspension, four-wheel disc brakes, cold air conditioning, and reportedly rust-free body, it offers a combination of performance and usability that many classic car enthusiasts are actively searching for. For someone who wants a first-generation Firebird that can be driven and enjoyed with confidence in modern traffic, this example appears to be a very compelling package and one of the more interesting Pontiac listings currently available. Number 10. 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle SS Convertible, offered at $64,500 and currently located in Palm Coast, Florida. In my opinion, this is the kind of Chevelle that immediately commands attention because it combines several of the most desirable traits collectors look for: genuine SS pedigree, a big block engine, convertible body style, factory-correct colors, and what is claimed to be a numbers-matching drivetrain. When those ingredients come together in one car, values tend to climb quickly. The first thing that stands out is the claim that this is a genuine SS 396 car rather than a tribute or clone. In the Chevelle market, authenticity matters tremendously. While tribute cars can be attractive and enjoyable, a real SS with documented heritage generally occupies a completely different level of collector interest. If the documentation supports the seller's claims, that alone adds substantial appeal. The heart of the car is the numbers-matching 396 cubic inch turbojet V8 rated at 325 horsepower. In my opinion, this is one of the strongest selling points of the entire listing. Chevrolet's 396 big block helped define the muscle car era, delivering the kind of torque and performance that made the Chevelle SS one of the most feared street machines of the late 1960s. Equally important is the numbers-matching turbo 400 automatic transmission. The TH400 has long been respected as one of General Motors' strongest automatic transmissions. Having the original transmission still paired with the original engine significantly strengthens the car's authenticity and collector appeal. The factory T2 yellow paint is another feature that deserves attention. Many classic muscle cars today wear colors chosen during restoration rather than their original factory shades. According to the seller, this car remains finished in its correct color combination, which helps preserve its historical character. The yellow exterior paired with a black interior and black convertible top creates a striking contrast that perfectly suits the bold personality of a 1967 SS Chevelle. The convertible body style elevates the car even further. In my opinion, convertibles have a unique appeal because they combine muscle car performance with open-air driving. While hardtops often dominate discussions about performance, a big block convertible offers an experience that few vehicles can match. The ability to enjoy the sound of a 396 V8 with the top down is a major part of the attraction. The seller also notes that the car was professionally repainted and presents beautifully. A quality repaint can significantly enhance the appearance of a classic car, especially when done in the original factory color. Since the vehicle is described as rust-free with a solid body and frame, that suggests the restoration focused on preserving a strong foundation rather than hiding serious structural issues. Another encouraging detail is the mention of a clean trunk and undercarriage. In my opinion, those areas often reveal more about a classic car's condition than the glossy paint visible in photographs. A clean underside is usually a sign of careful ownership and proper preservation. The mileage, showing approximately 97,000 miles, is not particularly low for a nearly 60-year-old vehicle, but mileage becomes less important when evaluating a well-maintained classic. Condition, originality, documentation, and overall presentation generally matter far more than the number displayed on the odometer. I also find it interesting that the seller notes the current owner maintains a collection and purchased the car from a recognized classic car dealer. While that does not guarantee quality, it often suggests the vehicle has been owned by someone who appreciates and maintains collectible automobiles rather than using them as ordinary transportation. At $64,500, the asking price places this Chevelle in serious collector territory. However, when considering the genuine SS status, numbers matching 396 engine, numbers matching turbo 400 transmission, convertible body style, factory-correct colors, rust-free condition, and attractive presentation, the price becomes easier to understand. Cars with this combination of attributes rarely fall into the bargain category. If I were inspecting this Chevelle, I would focus on verifying the SS documentation, confirming the engine and transmission stampings, reviewing restoration records, and carefully examining the quality of the repaint. Those details would ultimately determine how closely the car lives up to the seller's description. Overall, my impression is that this 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle SS convertible appears to be a highly desirable example of one of America's most iconic muscle cars. The combination of authenticity, big block power, factory-correct specifications, convertible styling, and strong presentation makes it the type of vehicle that appeals to both collectors and enthusiasts. If the numbers matching claims and SS documentation check out, this Chevelle represents the sort of classic muscle car that remains highly sought after decades after it first left the showroom floor. Number 11. 1966 Chevrolet Corvette Coupe, offered at $69,500 and currently located in Gadsden, Alabama. In my opinion, this 1966 Corvette L79 Coupe is exactly the type of classic American sports car that serious collectors tend to take very seriously. Unlike many restored or modified examples on the market, this one is described as an unrestored, matching numbers car, which immediately places it in a different category of value and authenticity. The most important detail here is the L79 327 cubic inch V8 producing 350 horsepower. In my view, this engine is one of the most desirable small block Chevrolet performance options of the 1960s. It delivered impressive factory performance for its time and has since become highly respected among Corvette enthusiasts for its balance of power and reliability. Backing that engine is a matching numbers 4-speed manual transmission and a 3.70 rear end, which suggests this Corvette was built with performance in mind from the factory. In my opinion, that combination would have made it a genuinely exciting car to drive in 1966, and it still holds up as a strong performance setup today. One of the most appealing aspects of this listing is the originality. The seller states that the car retains its original Nassau blue paint, original blue and white interior, and even visible factory bonding seams. For collectors, those details matter because they confirm that the car has not been heavily altered or restored over the years. I also like the fact that it still features factory side pipes and power brakes. These are the kinds of period-correct features that enhance both the driving experience and the authenticity of the vehicle. In my opinion, small details like this help preserve the identity of the car as it left the factory. The description also notes that the car runs and drives well, which is important for a vehicle of this age and value. Many unrestored classics tend to become display pieces rather than drivers, so hearing that it remains roadworthy adds another layer of appeal. What stands out most to me is the rarity of finding a true survivor Corvette with matching numbers across the engine, transmission, and rear end. Combined with its original color combination and unrestored condition, this example appears to represent a very honest piece of mid-1960s Chevrolet performance history. Overall, my opinion is that this 1966 Corvette L79 Coupe is aimed at serious collectors who value originality above everything else. With its matching numbers drivetrain, factory performance specs, and preserved condition, it looks like a rare opportunity to own a genuinely authentic piece of Corvette heritage. Number 12. 1968 Pontiac Lemons, offered at $22,000 and currently located in Houstonville, Kentucky. In my opinion, this 1968 Pontiac Lemons appears to be a straightforward classic cruiser that focuses more on simplicity and driving enjoyment than high-end performance or full restoration detail. While it may not carry the same performance reputation as the GTO from the same era, the Lemons shares much of the same basic platform and styling, which makes it a popular choice for enthusiasts who want classic Pontiac looks at a more accessible level. The car is equipped with a 350 cubic inch V8 paired with a 2-barrel carburetor, which typically suggests a focus on reliability and relaxed street driving rather than aggressive performance. Combined with a 2-speed Powerglide automatic transmission, this setup is known for being simple, durable, and easy to maintain. It may not offer rapid acceleration by modern standards, but it delivers a smooth and uncomplicated driving experience that many classic car owners appreciate. One notable characteristic of this vehicle is the use of manual drum brakes. While drum brakes were standard for many cars of this era, they do require more effort and distance to bring the vehicle to a stop compared to modern disc brake systems. This is an important consideration for potential buyers, especially those who plan to drive the car regularly in modern traffic conditions. The seller describes the car as being in a condition where it can be driven home immediately after purchase, which suggests that it is currently operational and not a non-running project. That is always a positive point for buyers who prefer a ready-to-drive classic rather than a vehicle that requires immediate mechanical work or transport. Visually, the blue exterior with a black interior is a classic and widely appealing color combination. While the listing does not provide extensive detail regarding paint quality or interior condition, the overall presentation seems aimed at a functional driver rather than a fully restored show car. This type of vehicle often appeals to buyers who prefer a classic they can enjoy without worrying too much about preserving perfection. One minor concern is the seller's note that the mileage may not be exact, which introduces some uncertainty regarding the vehicle's overall wear and long-term usage history. However, in many older classics, especially those without complete documentation, this is not uncommon and should be weighed alongside the vehicle's overall condition and drivability. At an asking price of $22,000, this Lemon sits in a range where condition becomes extremely important. The value will largely depend on factors such as body integrity, rust condition, interior quality, and how well the drivetrain has been maintained. Compared to higher performance Pontiac models like the GTO, the Lemons typically commands a lower market value, but it can still represent solid enjoyment if it is a clean, solid example. Overall, I think this 1968 Pontiac Lemons offers a simple and honest classic car experience. It is not positioned as a high-performance or heavily restored vehicle, but rather as a usable vintage cruiser with classic Pontiac styling and a dependable drivetrain. For someone looking for an entry-level classic that can be enjoyed immediately, it could be a reasonable option, provided the physical condition matches the seller's description. Number 13, 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, offered at $61,000 and located in Oxford, Mississippi. In my opinion, this 1957 Bel Air is a strong example of a Restomod-style classic that prioritizes drivability and comfort while still preserving the iconic styling that makes the 57 Chevrolet one of the most recognizable American cars ever built. Unlike strict restorations that aim for factory originality, this build clearly leans toward a usable classic cruiser, and that direction actually fits this model very well. The biggest highlight is the drivetrain combination. The 350 crate engine is one of the most common and reliable V8 swaps in the classic car world. While it may not be original to the vehicle, it offers a major advantage in terms of parts availability, serviceability, and everyday dependability. In a car like a Bel Air, which is often driven for enjoyment rather than historical accuracy, that reliability matters a lot. Paired with the engine is a 200-4R overdrive transmission. This is, in my opinion, one of the best upgrades for a classic cruiser. The overdrive gear significantly reduces engine RPM at highway speeds, making the car much more comfortable for longer drives and improving fuel efficiency compared to older 3-speed automatics. It transforms a 1950s car into something that can realistically keep up with modern traffic conditions. The inclusion of vintage air conditioning, power steering, and power brakes further supports the idea that this Bel Air was built to be driven rather than stored. These upgrades dramatically improve comfort and ease of use. Power steering in particular makes a big difference in a mid-century full-size car, especially during low-speed driving or parking. I also find the braking setup to be a sensible choice. Disc brakes in the front paired with drum brakes in the rear is a common and effective configuration for classic cars. It improves stopping performance significantly over original drum-only systems without requiring a full modern brake conversion. Visually, the listing mentions paint and chrome very nice, along with new interior work, wheels, and tires. While that description is somewhat subjective, those are important cosmetic areas that often determine how complete and enjoyable a classic car feels. A refreshed interior and clean exterior presentation can make a car feel substantially newer and more valuable than its mechanical specs alone would suggest. The addition of a chrome tilt steering column is another thoughtful upgrade. It not only adds a touch of custom styling but also improves driving ergonomics by allowing the steering wheel to be adjusted for comfort. Small details like this often contribute significantly to the overall driving experience in older vehicles. At $61,000, this Bel Air is positioned in the higher end of the market for modified examples. The price reflects both the popularity of the 1957 Bel Air nameplate and the cost of building a well-equipped Restomod with modern drivability upgrades. While it is not a factory original collector piece, it clearly targets buyers who want the classic look combined with modern usability. Overall, my opinion is that this 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air represents a well-rounded Restomod cruiser. The combination of a reliable 350 crate engine, overdrive transmission, upgraded braking system, comfort features like vintage air and power steering, and refreshed cosmetic condition makes it a strong weekend driver or show-and cruise vehicle. For someone who values usability as much as style, this Bel Air appears to deliver exactly that balance. Number 14, 1978 Buick LeSabre, offered at $1,200 and currently located in Bell Buckle, Tennessee. From my perspective, this is very clearly a true budget class project car, and honestly, that's exactly what makes it interesting. The late 1970s Buick LeSabre isn't a performance icon or a highly collectible muscle car, but it does represent a large, comfortable American full-size cruiser from an era when Buick focused heavily on smoothness and highway comfort. The first thing that stands out is the price. At just $1,200, this is firmly in entry-level project territory. In my opinion, at this price point you're not really buying a finished car, you're buying a starting point. And the seller is very direct about that, which I actually appreciate. Under the hood is a Buick 350 V8. Personally, I think the Buick 350 is an underrated engine in the classic car world. It's not as widely discussed as Chevrolet small blocks, but it's known for decent torque and smooth operation when properly sorted. However, in this case, the seller already makes it clear the engine is running rough and the car will need to be trailered. That honesty is important, because it immediately sets expectations. The fact that it will start when jumped suggests it's not completely dead, but it's also far from road ready. In my opinion, that puts this car squarely in the mechanical revival category rather than a simple cosmetic refresh. The description is extremely minimal, which I actually see as a double-edged sword. On one hand, there's not much detail about condition beyond the basics. On the other hand, the seller isn't overpromising anything, which is often a good sign in low-priced classics. The LeSabre itself is part of Buick's full-size lineup, and these cars were designed for comfort rather than performance. Even in restored condition, they are not typically sought after for speed or handling. However, I personally think they can make excellent cruiser projects if someone is willing to invest time into mechanical sorting and basic restoration work. One important detail is the inclusion of the Buick 350 paired with an automatic transmission. If the drivetrain is salvageable, that alone can make the car worth the asking price in parts or as a rebuild base. At this level of the market, drivetrain condition often matters more than cosmetic appearance. The fact that the seller notes no trades and clean title in hand is also worth mentioning. In my experience, having a clean title on a low-cost project car is a big advantage because it removes one of the most common headaches in budget classic car purchases. The blue exterior and blue interior combination is very period correct for the late 1970s. While it may not be the most visually exciting color choice, it fits the original character of the car and reinforces its identity as a traditional American cruiser. If I were evaluating this car personally, I would not consider it as a driver-ready vehicle. Instead, I would view it as a long-term restoration or hobby project. It could be a good candidate for someone who enjoys reviving old full-size Buicks and doesn't mind dealing with mechanical uncertainty from the start. Overall, my opinion is that this 1978 Buick LeSabre is a very rough but honest project car with potential depending entirely on how much effort and time the next owner is willing to invest. It's not a polished classic, but at this price point, it doesn't pretend to be one. For someone looking for an inexpensive entry into classic Buick ownership and a hands-on restoration experience, this LeSabre could serve as a starting canvas, but it will require patience, mechanical work, and realistic expectations to bring it back to proper road condition. Number 15, 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, offered at $30,000 and currently located in Cookeville, Tennessee. In my opinion, this is a classic example of a driver-quality Restomod style Tri-5 Chevy rather than a fully original or show-level restoration. The 1957 Bel Air is one of the most iconic American cars ever built, and because of that, even modified examples tend to attract strong interest as long as they are well-sorted and structurally sound. The biggest highlight here is the drivetrain setup. The seller mentions a built 400 small-block Chevrolet engine paired with a 4-speed transmission. In my opinion, that combination completely changes the character of the car compared to a stock 57. While original Bel Airs are known for their smooth cruising nature and classic V8 charm, a built 400 SBC brings significantly more performance, torque, and drivability in modern traffic. The addition of a manual 4-speed also suggests a more engaging, enthusiast-focused driving experience rather than a relaxed cruiser setup. However, it's important to note that this is no longer an original spec collector restoration. In the classic car world, modifications like a non-original engine and transmission typically move the vehicle out of the investment-grade originality category and into the enjoyable custom driver category. In my opinion, that isn't necessarily a negative, it just defines the target buyer more clearly. The seller describes it as an older restoration, which is another important detail. That usually means the car was restored years ago and has since accumulated some age-related wear. Older restorations can still be solid and attractive, but they often don't have the same level of freshness or detail as modern restorations. Buyers should expect possible imperfections in paint, trim, or interior consistency depending on how well it has been maintained over time. On the positive side, the seller clearly states that it runs and drives great and can be driven anywhere. In my opinion, that is one of the most meaningful statements in any classic car listing. A 1950s car that is truly roadworthy in modern conditions is often worth more to many enthusiasts than a static showpiece that spends most of its life in storage. The 1957 Bel Air itself remains one of the most desirable American classics due to its distinctive styling, tail fins, chrome-heavy design, and instantly recognizable silhouette. Even modified versions retain strong visual appeal because the base design is so iconic that it carries the car regardless of drivetrain changes. The red exterior with gray interior is a fairly classic combination for this era, although many restored Tri-5 Chevys end up in highly customized color schemes. In this case, the description does not specify paint quality or recent work, so I would assume it presents as an older finish rather than a freshly restored show-level paint job. At $30,000, the asking price sits in a range where condition and build quality become extremely important. In my opinion, modified Tri-5 Chevys can vary widely in value depending on the quality of the engine swap, chassis setup, rust repair history, and overall craftsmanship. A well-built, reliable driver can justify this price, but a poorly executed build could make it overpriced quickly. If I were evaluating this Bel Air in person, I would pay close attention to the frame condition, the quality of the engine installation, cooling system performance, especially with a built SBC in an older chassis, and overall structural integrity. I would also want to inspect how the older restoration has aged, particularly around common rust-prone areas such as floor pans, rocker panels, and lower quarter sections. Overall, my impression is that this 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air is best described as a strong-running custom driver with classic appeal rather than a numbers-matching collector restoration. The built 400 small block and 4-speed transmission make it more performance-oriented than stock, while the older restoration status suggests it may not be freshly refined. Still, the combination of iconic styling, usable powertrain, and drive it anywhere condition makes it an appealing option for someone who values enjoyment behind the wheel more than strict originality or show field perfection.